Nope. Hey, everybody! Sorry for the delay, but I promise you, this is going to be worth it because we've got on one of my favorites here on Sportswire Radio, and it has been a huge week for him, and certainly over in GT Ministries, the biggest show of the year, one of the biggest wrestling shows of the year at Chronicles, got a huge win to open the show against a nemesis and Jack Barron, who we spoke about quite a bit here on Sportswire Radio. Also, it looks like we've seen things develop once again between him and another familiar foe, and that is the metal god Alex Borland. Plus, we're going to talk about the documentary that GT Ministries is finally going to have on the BBC network next week to air. Also, some Bolton Town wrestling, TWA, and who knows what else. So, without further ado here on the Sports Report, number one, Lama Pacho. He's the vigilante of pro wrestling. His name is Bentley. My friend, welcome back.
Hello, how we doing?
We'll see how I'm doing in 45 minutes or so after that intro. So certainly, I always almost press myself to the limits, but with you, we had to do it. And obviously, certainly a lot to get into. And congratulations on some of the recent success. And certainly for those that are listening and watching this on all of our Sportswire radio platforms, we're going to get right into it. And certainly to kick things off in GT Ministries Chronicles. And they always say, Bentley, the two spots you want is the opening spot in the closing spot, because the opening spot, you've got the fans, everybody's ready, they're excited, and the closing spot, which is the spot you've been in, and certainly you delivered and some against a foe we spoke about here on Sportswire Radio in the past, in Jack Barron, and set the tables for us on how it unfolded. And it was a great match, really enjoyed it, really a lot of back and forth, but you got one over, and talk about what it meant.
You know what? I absolutely love opening the show. Like, that is not to diminish the main event, but if I was to, get a choice, if it wasn't the title match, if it was, another match, I would always open the show, always, because it always just feels special. You're the first guys out there, he's setting the tone for the night, and it's always like the crowd's always up for it. They haven't had a dip yet, so they're all ready and raring to go. So the story was, the last show at GTM, I got cost a shot at the ladder match by Gina. I called Gina out. We heard nothing. And I issued an open challenge to anybody to come prove themselves in GTM. And then Jack Barron, who had recently faced an LWF, one of the only people. Since COVID, I've only lost cleanly to 3 people, Jack Barron being one of them. So it was good to avenge one of those losses. I always do love getting in the ring with Jack, no matter how nefarious he is. Big word, that. It's always fun. Always fun to get a victory. It was a nice little match we had, and onwards and upwards.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. No question about that. And congratulations here. And certainly, let me get to a bunch of different comments. Uncle Ralph, who was obviously there at Chronicles, says, "Good evening, gentlemen. Good to see you last Saturday." Bentley Damo says here, "Good evening, Bentley. Great win for Saturday. My daughter loved watching for the first time." And I want to ask you then, obviously, a win like this, Jack Barron, we spoke about, obviously, Jack Barron with you in the past and the victory that he had against you over at Monday Night Mutiny. And do you feel like now that going forward into things, getting a victory over Jack Barron, that puts you back to where we need you to be? Because obviously, we've always kind of thought that you're right here in this title picture. And obviously, we'll get into how the title picture has changed, and things have definitely maybe transcribed to what some people thought and other people's didn't. But I mean, do you feel like a win like this against Jack Barron kind of puts you back to where you need to be in things in GT Ministries?
Yeah, of course. A win over someone of Jack Barron's caliber is always going to, propel you to that next level. Especially after, having lost to him so recently, it was, I'm always trying to get back on the right track. We know for the past, as I've said, 3 people cleanly since COVID. The matches I have lost, I would say they haven't been of my own doing. There's been a lot
you've
of
had so many really,
yeah.
really weird endings. I mean, you've had a number of them, whether it's in GT Ministries or in Bolton Town, which we'll get into in a little while. You've definitely had your share of some unfortunate luck. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, so it was good to actually get a victory, just to get a nice, simple, clean victory, a nice, simple match, no outside interference. Good to get back on the right track.
Well, you definitely did that for sure. And certainly, again, obviously, congratulations on the big victory. And let me get to some more comments here because obviously the peanut gallery is in. I want to give a shout out to Dustin Hart from CCW. And we'll actually have an announcement related to CCW in a little while as well. So I want to make sure I recognize them. Good evening, guys. Hope all is well. Really enjoyed GT Ministries. There are a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people that watch the show. And certainly, we concur. And again, I'll have another announcement related to CCW for Friday's show upcoming. So look forward to that. And my daughter said she wants a Bentley t-shirt. I want to bring up the Bentley shirt very quickly because I want a Bentley shirt. But unfortunately, where you go through as a U.S. resident like I am, I can't buy a Bentley shirt yet. So you have to eventually fix that. So one of these days you have to fix so I can buy a Bentley shirt because I really want a Bentley shirt. But for those that are listening in the UK, tell Damo where his daughter can get a Bentley shirt.
I would say the best bit at the moment is just to message me and we can sort it out from there because especially with kid sizes, I can get kid sizes pretty quickly. So I've actually had an influx recently of kids orders, which is always nice. I've actually got one who messaged me, someone who bought one, who now all the friends want one. So I've got a post about that at some point in the next few days. So I've been sent a few pictures.
That's got to make you feel good, though, when you have kids that want to wear your shirt and support you. I know it's certainly one thing when, idiots like me want to wear your shirt because, I'm a wrestling fan. But when you have kids at a certain age and they're seeing wrestling and you might be their first wrestler that they get to see up close, I mean, that's got to be a pretty special feeling. I know it's off topic, but I thought it would be kind of cool to ask you that.
I mean, it always means, I never thought, when I started this wrestling journey, I never thought anybody would be interested in, as I'm sure a lot of people do. But yeah, it's humbling, it's lovely. And every time someone shows that, they're interested in what I'm doing, interested in wearing my merch, getting behind me, it means the world to me.
Absolutely. No question about that. You can follow Bentley again on Facebook. You can follow him on Instagram, Bentley_wrestler. Also follow him on Twitter as well. And certainly, again, if you would have asked me as a kid growing up, would I be speaking to professional wrestlers? I would have said, you nuts. I mean, listen, we didn't know years ago that these things would be possible, but they are. And let me get to a couple of comments, especially one that you're going to be very curious of. But let me get to Dustin Hart first, who, by the way, have to give Dustin a huge shout out. Love everything that he does, obviously, in Colory Championship Wrestling. It was an honor to have him on. We will get him back on Sportswire Radio very soon because we're going to be resuming CCW coverage starting this Friday. But he says, I made the journey down and loved how Bentley was a crowd pleaser. The crowd really was behind him. Absolutely. The crowd loves you. Everybody knows that. But let me get to our new reigning, defending GT Ministries world champion, somebody you know very well, and Mr. Gareth Angel. And, of course, him and Jack Johnson, certainly the rubber match. It was the main event like no other. Forget about the Thriller in Manila. Forget about Holyfield and Lewis, Canelo and GG. Topped all that. Rock Austin, anything else, fill it out, and it's still better. He says, congratulations on the win this past weekend, mate. I'm sure it won't be much longer before we dance again. And let's bring that up for a second because obviously we have a new champion, and it's Gareth Angel. Obviously, you and him have some history, and I think your victory to open the show was a very impressive win. And some are going to argue here in GT Ministries that you were right back in the discussion, like I just pointed about, of being in world title contention. I mean, is there anything that you want to say now to our new, once again, reigning, defending GT Ministries world champion, Mr. Gareth Angel?
Well, as I said before, 3 people since COVID have a clean win. Gareth one of them, and that was before I actually became, as I am now, the vigilante. So me and Gareth haven't tangled as, this new persona. So I would say anything before vigilante it was a different Bentley, I would say. And also at the moment there is a queue for Gareth. There's Disciple's been promised a match.
I saw that him and Blue Glasses Girl had a little video there, and certainly that was talked about. So, I mean, Gareth Angel, listen, it used to be before everybody wanted to take a shot at him and do a little promo with him and exchange a few punches. Now, as I've said before, the big boys are coming for Gareth Angel. So now it's different. Now it's almost like forget about these little guys that have new kids on the block like experience. It's going to be now the big leaguers, whether it's yourself, Disciple, and Rarebit, a man very, very well, who's actually holding that briefcase.
So, yeah, like I said, there is a queue. There's Rarebit, he's hanging around. There's Disciple. You've got people like Sean Only you have to tangle with. You've got Boylan. I'm sure Jack Johnson's going to want a rematch. So there's a lot of people in GT Ministries who will want a shot, and I am prepared to buy my time and wait and earn my spot back to the top, because I think a few more wins under my belt, a few more, get back in the swing of things, no more interferences, let's get back on track. And then I think once the momentum's there, it'll be time to go for that title.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're certainly taking a different approach than some of the other wrestlers like Disciple, for example, who's pretty much said, listen, I'm going to be a world champion within 12 months. Gareth Angel, you promised me. I have a score to settle, and I'm going straight for the jugular. So, interesting approach. Something tells me you and Gareth Angel could be almost like a Hogan Warrior scenario, where maybe it's almost the powers that be may align and certainly something special, but we'll see. We'll save that thought. I also want to get a shout out into Shelby, of course, Sinar, who does a phenomenal job at UKW and everywhere. And I always say this over and over and over. She's going to kill me for saying this, but she literally is our UK version of Trish Stratus and Lita. She is pretty much the first to do everything, and she's returning to the ring, and I owe her an appearance on Sportswire Radio. I'm kind of settling out some different things, so give me a couple of weeks, and we'll definitely get Shelby back. Very, very excited to have Shelby with us here once again. But I want to come back to the mental god, Alex Bowen, because you mentioned him, and I'm watching, Bentley, I'm watching this Stairway to Heaven, the ladder match, and Alex Bowen was with us, and Boylan certainly had some words. You kind of dipped in there a little bit there, or somebody did on your behalf a few weeks back when we had him on. And I noticed that there was a vigilante that came in and maybe gave Mr. Boylan a little bit of a distraction there, I noticed.
So you get to a point when, like I've already said, you have so many people getting involved in your matches. You have so many people talking about you. You have so many people trying to stop you from winning that you've got to do something yourself. You've got to grab the bull by the horns. And then, Boylan got that win over me at the last show, but with the hand of Gina, or the foot of Gina, I'd say. And then he comes on to your show and just goes, I didn't see it. I won, didn't I? We all know I saw it. We all know there's footage. And it's just being a vigilante is about justice, and some people just need to be taught a lesson. So that is what I'm going to do now, because I can't sit back and just wait for people to interfere in my matches and talk.
No way. No, and you know what? When we had on the metal god Alex Boylan, he was very, very confident, unusually confident about that match. And he had said, well, I haven't lost recently, and who's going to beat me? And he looked at the competition. And again, we had Disciple on, Slugger Hampton. I mean, these guys are just legitimate guys that could be a world champion in any company. In Slugger's case, he's one half of the CCW champions, the working class militia. And he was just extremely confident. And I guess he didn't realize that you had a score to settle with, because we saw that also most recently, as you mentioned, he got kind of a tainted victory there against you.
Yeah, and I don't think Boylan is humble enough to realize there would have been
Alex Boylan humble? Yeah. I don't think they go along in the dictionary.
So someone's got to humble him, basically. We have known each other for a long time. We started training together, and we've both gone in different directions. And the attitude he has developed, and the sense of entitlement is ridiculous.
Oh, there's no question that there's definitely been some sense of entitlement, but for now, he's going to go back to the pecking line when it comes to a shot at that GT Ministries championship, which once again is held by Gareth Angel. And I want everybody who hasn't followed GT Ministries, or even if you have followed GT Ministries, please follow GT Ministries on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and even TikTok at GT Ministries UK. And certainly GT Ministries does so many great things, not just for wrestling, but the community as a whole. And of course, we love everything that GT Ministries does for us here in Sportswire Radio. We are going to bring back Blue Glasses Girl next week, so I'm excited to have Blue Glasses Girl and finally talk about this documentary that everybody has been kind of talking about here left and right, and we finally get to hear it. Obviously, understandably so, that we didn't get a chance to air it because of the passing of the Queen. Certainly, our condolences to everybody in the UK and around the world for that loss. And that'll be next Friday. I believe it'll be 7:30 on the BBC network, where we'll get to see GT Ministries UK documentary. And let me get to a couple of different comments before I come back to you. And we have here, great match this past weekend. Was awesome when you claymored Alex Bowling. Yeah, that was good. I have to say, when you came in there, and I think old school MC2 and certainly Bradley Cook Pattinson were certainly, I guess, a little bit surprised. And speaking of Bradley Cook Pattinson, of course, on time, and he said the crowd absolutely loves Bentley and Bradford. I think that you are almost becoming like it's you and Gareth Angel, I think, are almost like the two most beloved wrestlers, I think, in GT Ministries. And I'll go and say it, and I always say this, of all the wrestlers I've had on Sportswire Radio, I really think you're right up there at the top of the list of most beloved wrestlers. I put you up there. Again, I always say it, you and RPD, certainly Mr. Angel. There's a number of other wrestlers that I could think of here. And Uncle Ralph also wants to say, it was a pleasure to meet Blue Glasses Girl at GT Ministries. Bentley is a fan favorite in Bradford. People want to talk to you, so I guess this was a big win. I think this goes back to what I said here a little while ago. This was a big, big win. I think we're building off things. Obviously, I know we have wins in the past over Sean Only. We have other wins in the past to speak of. But I really think here this was a win that kind of sets where I think Bentley goes, especially in GT Ministries, for the rest of 22 into 23.
Yeah, I mean, there's a long way to go. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of people to beat. There's a lot of people to kick in the head. There's a lot of people to serve justice. And I'm looking forward to the next year. Like, we had the anguish of earlier this year, the last few months. And now
I thought you were going to be holding two world championships right now. I mean, you were like an inch away with both of them. I mean,
exactly. So we've got rebuild. We've got a few scores to settle in BTW, Bradford, elsewhere. We've got all that coming up. So let's get through the next, get through the end of 2022, see where we are. And as for Bradford, I absolutely love wrestling there. It's one of my favorite places to wrestle. And strangely, I have never had an interview with Blue Glasses Girl, so I think I need to sort that out on the next show.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're getting her back. We're getting her here finally. She's going to be back to speak GT Ministries right before the documentary. I promise, Bentley, that I will ask her this question. Blue Glasses Girl, what's going on here? Why haven't you spoken to Bentley? I saw every wrestler last week at the Fountains Church on Chronicles almost do an interview, or we've seen in the past different shows, whether it's the Modern Day Mafia, whether it's obviously Disciple, whether it's you name them, Pride. They're all doing a spot with Blue Glasses Girl. But Bentley, I mean, Bentley's like one of the guys, and not only in GT Ministries, but in all professional wrestling. But, very quickly, I did want to touch upon the documentary, because obviously we're going to speak about it here finally after a long delay on Sportswire. Everyone's going to get to watch it next Friday, ironically, on my birthday. So I guess this is kind of like a birthday present to some extent, that they're going to play this documentary. It's next Friday, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, next Friday. So we'll see what happens. I'll probably be on the air, and I'm sure somebody will do some type of joke. I think that, like, Vince McMahon would always, I think it was at Jim Ross's birthday, he'd always play like some type of prank on Jim Ross during Raw or something. I'm sure somebody will do that on Sportswire Radio. But the documentary, obviously, a lot of people I know are looking forward to this. I know Gareth mentioned it at the end of the show in Chronicles. And talk about from your vantage point, because I believe there's some footage of you actually in the documentary, and talk about the documentary and what it means to you, and I'm sure everybody else in the company, to get this wide stage that we're going to see GT Ministries on.
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot to be on TV in general. Not many wrestlers get that opportunity, and it's great that it's in this aspect to show what good work the church is doing, what good work GT Ministries is doing, what good work we do as a whole, just to put on these shows for the community. So yeah, it's if you had a list of goals as a wrestler, being on TV is always one of them. So I suppose it's going to be on BBC One as well. So prime time.
Well, GT Ministries deserves prime time, so we're excited about that, obviously, and we spoke a little bit about that with Gareth Angel and Jack Johnson last week on the air, and also want to get to a few more comments before we come back into things as we're with Pro Wrestling Star here, Bentley. About 20 or 25 more minutes. Obviously, Bentley's a very, very busy man. He's got a lot going on here. Very, very happy to have had time with him here. And he says, was amazing to be at the Fountains Church Saturday for GTM Chronicles. What a night. I loved every match on Saturday. They were all great. Hopefully, you will see new wrestlers and trainees across very soon. Well, we'll certainly see. Obviously, that'll be for the head trainer of GT Ministries. That'll be Sean only to decide, and certainly Mr. Angel himself. So we'll see what happens for that. But, when it comes to anything else in GT Michigan? I want to come back to some other companies and spend on. Is there anything else that you want to address? Let's obviously talk about the Gareth Angel Jack Johnson match and get your thoughts on it, because obviously you have a history with both. Certainly, Mr. Johnson most recently, and a lot of people thought you were going to take that title from early on. And what a match! I mean, I don't think I've saw as many close finishes as I've seen in that title match, and certainly even old school MC2 coming in as a referee, I think a couple different times, but Mr. Angel finds a way. The Angels army lifts him back to the gold. And what were your impressions on that match?
It had everything, didn't it? It
sure did.
It's like it was like an Attitude Era main event, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was pleading the fifth on that because a birdie told me that was kind of the plan, but I'm going to plead the fifth on who that birdie was.
Was it? Well, I think I can guess, but it was eventful. It was exciting. It had everyone on the feet, and the best man won in the end. You've got to say, after a match like that, whoever comes out on top was the best man. I'm sure Jack Johnson will have other words, but he's got, he's going to have the bit between his teeth to get that title back. And let's not forget, he's also got a briefcase for the Bolton Championship.
Well, that's gonna be an excellent transition into Bolton Town wrestling, because you certainly read my mind, and obviously you have had quite a history in Bolton Town wrestling, and obviously your dances with the gold there. So obviously I know that we're around the corner from the next show in Bolton Town. I think what are we, about 6 or 7 weeks or so from the next Bolton Town show, something like that. And
yeah, it's Bonfire Night weekend, Friday, November the 4th, if I'm not.
That's why I knew the calendar. I think it was about 6 or so weeks from now. And as crazy as it sounds, it feels like it was yesterday. I was speaking about you and Rarebit and watching that match. And so where do we go from here when it comes to you in Bolton Town wrestling, now that we have a show coming up there in November?
So the last Bolton Town wrestling show, I came out, and it was quite heartwarming, actually, because they showed a little clip of what happened between me and Rarebit. Mm-hmm. I came out, and the fans actually wouldn't let me speak. They were chanting Bentley was our champion. Well, is our champion. And that meant a lot to me, because I did not expect anything like that. I just came out to say, I'm going to work my way back up to that title, no matter what it is. And I was about to, decide to say, that's what I was about to announce. I got cut off by a friend of yours, David Getsky.
Oh, God. Which is going to be another transition soon. Somebody, Davey Getsky. Davey Getsky. Yep.
So I got caught by Davey Getsky. He comes out, moans about how he should have been Bolton Town champion in that triple threat. Whereas, so he was moaning about, being champion, where I was saying, look, things happen, let's carry on with it. And then I said, right, let's fight. So me and Getsky had I would say, a bit of a slobber knocker. Still haven't seen the
Yeah, he
footage back
came
yet,
on,
though.
I believe. In fact, I believe he came on after his match with you, if I'm not
Oh, did
mistaken. I believe we had him on a few minutes after the match because we had
Oh, he
Nathan
did, didn't
Dunn.
he? Yeah.
Yep, and I believe that he was the victor in that match. Correct me if I'm wrong, because
No. So what happened was I took him down, had the three. Well, I was about. It was 1, 2, and guess what happened? The Wrecking Crew, Chris Stone
I know him very well, Mr. Stone. I know
breaks
him
up the
very well.
pin. So it was a DQ finish. I had him beat. I got attacked. They got a chair out, but then my old friend Phil Michael
Oh, Phil
came
Michael.
into,
Yep, we know Phil
came into
Michael.
the ring, saved me from getting beaten up with the chair, drop kicked Chris Stone in the face of the chair, and helped me back up. So next show, it was announced that it'd be me and Phil Michael against the Wrecking Crew.
Oh, wow. I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, that'll certainly get some blood to boil here. You're going to be in action against the Wrecking Crew, and certainly the Wrecking Crew. I've spoken about the Wrecking Crew almost more than any other team here on Sportswire Radio in the past 2 years, and obviously they were the former LWF Tag Team Champions, and certainly the various incarnations of them. We've seen them in many other companies, Odyssey Pro Wrestling, the LWF, of course, and Bolton Town, and I mean, you got to put a stop here to Mr. Getsky and Mr. Stone. Getsky, it's always anyone but Getsky. You know that's my motto.
Yeah.
That's the shirt out there. So, I mean, you better be watching for some outside shenanigans there, my friend. You going to be careful now?
Well, it's more. I know how good of a tag team they are.
Very good tag team. We've covered them here all throughout the year, and to me, they're up there with the likes of Reese and Rogan, Synergy. I mean, the Models. I mean, they're a really, really good tag team. Certainly, the working class militia. Yep, go ahead.
I've now got to take them on in a tag team match, whereas I work best as a singles wrestler. And obviously, me and Phil, we've got back years, but we've never tagged together. Phil's a fantastic wrestler, one of the best in the UK, but we've never tagged together. So we've got to, go against this team of the Wrecking Crew who know each other inside out and also know all the tricks in the book. So it's going to be interesting. Got 6 weeks to get ready.
I'm looking forward to it. Listen, that's going to be a hot skip in a minute, and you know that we're going to be speaking a lot about that here on Sportswire Radio. I realize our time is shorter, so I want to get to a couple of quick comments from those individuals that want to, and we have here one that says Gareth MC2 Gareth Angel will be coming for you, trying to help Jack Johnson. Okay, I guess. Let's go with this one here. Quick question for Bentley: is there anyone you'd like to wrestle from GT Ministries, or anyone that you haven't wrestled that you'd like to wrestle in GT Ministries? That's a good question.
Oh, so like I said, me and Gareth wasn't. It was different. It was a different incarnation of Bentley. I would like to see eventually me and Gareth main event in that show, both as we are now, letting the crowd decide who they want to win. Well,
I said Hogan. To me, it's Hogan Warrior. It's got that Hogan Warrior vibe to it. You and him. That's what it has.
That would be my ideal match in GTM at the moment, guys, because I've wrestled most guys.
I know. Disciple, obviously, we spoke about that. We know the history with Boylan. Sean Only, we spoke about here. Obviously, hold the victory over him recently. Rarebit. Let's not even go there at this point on Rarebit. Mm-hmm. I mean, the only one I could think of, honestly, I'll give you one, and I wouldn't quite say he's just exclusively GT Ministries, but a guy that might be a good match with you, Slugger Hampton.
Yeah, I mean, I've never tangled.
In fact, I've got one more, which will transition us eventually here shortly, is somebody that's in GT Ministries, and he's holding some gold right now, and that is the Nonstop Action Wrestling World-Class title holder. His name is the Wild Card Tommy Dillon, and he has these open challenges, and with all due respect to these different individuals, obviously we've had him on, and Kayla Majakester, Champ Rogers, and everybody else that answers these open challenges. I mean, if Tommy Dillon really wants to be a world champion and he wants to put his title on the line, I mean, or even if he doesn't, I mean, Bentley would certainly be a step up in the competition with no disrespect to anybody else there. And certainly he's got his hands full, I know, with the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, who's going to come on Monday night with us. And I'm sure that the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, will probably agree with me on the fact that Tommy Dillon may not be a champion much longer, but that would be a title, I think, that you would
I
definitely
mean,
take pretty easily from him.
if he wants his undefeated streak in GTM coming to an end, then once I finish with Boylan, we'll see what happens.
And I'll tell you what, in Bradford, they don't seem to like the wild card Tommy Dillon. They seem to like Bentley, the vigilante of pro wrestling. So something tells me here that Tommy Dillon may be a wild card, but he hasn't met somebody in a vigilante of pro wrestling Bentley. So I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. If you really want to go out there and get the ratings, you really want to go out there and get the big bucks, certainly that would be something that I would consider. And I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And we got about 10 or 15 minutes here with Bentley. And if you like what you hear from Bentley, please give him a follow on Instagram at Bentley_wrestler. Also, Bentley Wrestler on Twitter. Also, like his page on Facebook. And certainly follow all the great companies that he works with. Certainly GT Ministries, Bolton Town, the LWF to an extent, and a company that we're going to get to here very, very shortly in TWA. So make sure you follow those great companies, and especially GT Ministries UK on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and even TikTok. And also this Friday, we will have on BMD from CCW coming up this Friday here at 8 o'clock British Standard Time. We'll have a lot to catch up here with CCW. Also going to have a big announcement during Monday's show with the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, in terms of another future guest coming on CCW. So CCW is heating up back to Sportswire Radio. I want to thank James Barris for giving us these opportunities. So that's what we like to do here on Sportswire Radio. Give everybody a chance, everybody a shot, and of course, love what CCW does. We'll also have on Nicholas Crenson tomorrow night. That'll be 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in America. Certainly, Nicholas Crenson is coming off a 30-minute Ironman match that went into sudden death, a part of Wrestling Championship Entertainment, that I'm excited to speak about. And also, Nicholas Crenson certainly made examples of the likes of Dark Fire and Adonis Felios, who he'll be in the ring with next week at Fighter Fright Part 1 and Part 2. So a lot to get into with Nicholas Crenson. Give him a like and follow on Facebook. So we'll talk about all that tomorrow. And we are here with the vigilante of pro wrestling, Bentley. And Bentley, speaking of things that I know are pretty cool, and a part of a company called TWA that's coming up in the future, it's my understanding that you're going to be finally wrestling there and also in front of your hometown. And talk about what that means to you to be able to wrestle in front of friends and family in your own hometown.
So it's been a long time. So TWA hasn't been around for quite a few years. They stopped because of COVID and never really started back up. I wrestled there, but not every show. Before that, I was the other, coronation of Bentley at that time.
Yep. We spoke about it here in the past. Yep.
I have never been back to my hometown of Darwin, which is next to Blackburn, as the vigilante. So I've never been there when, I'm someone to cheer for. So it's going to be, I'm excited. I've got a lot of people I know, friends and family attending. So it's going to be a good night. Well, it's afternoon, actually. It's Sunday afternoon. It's going to be lots of fun. And I really can't wait because it's probably one of the shows I've been waiting for to come back, just to be able to wrestle again in Darwin. It's also the venue where I made my debut as a wrestler.
So this almost has to give you extra motivation. Hometown, Sunday afternoon, it's going to be a big crowd, and it's the place where it almost kind of all started. So I have to imagine that there's going to be a lot of motivation here coming up.
Yeah, I'm motivated to get off to a good start in TWA again. I want to be able to, work my way up there. There's a lot of good talent on the card. There's a lot of good talent on the roster. It's going to be a competitive environment, and it's one of the good things about TWA was that it's very similar to GTM. They were focused on a good work environment, a good backstage atmosphere. So they only employ wrestlers who will make that kind of atmosphere. So yeah, it is. I'm excited. I'm motivated, and it's in a week and a half. So I can't
Wow,
wait.
I mean that's all coming up here, and what's so interesting about TWA here, I have to mention, is that we're almost going to see, I guess, the twins collide in a sense, and that is
Yeah.
Davey Getsky and Jack Johnson. I mean, almost were they separated at birth? I mean, other than Jack Johnson saying Salford all day, I mean, I almost couldn't tell them apart at this point.
How will they know who
That's
wins when they make the pin? They're not
uh
going to.
so who gets credited the victory then? I mean, who gets
Nobody, no idea.
Well, I guess we'll find out, but obviously that's going to be pretty cool itself, and obviously in a hometown. And I almost have to think very quickly here. I mean, a Sunday afternoon crowd is always cool to be able to wrestle in front of, because I always feel like when I think about it when it comes to sports, I remember even as a kid playing in sports, and it was when you had a Sunday afternoon, it was always kind of like a certain special vibe to it, almost like you had a little bit more extra pep in your step, and there was energy. And I almost kind of feel like a Sunday afternoon crowd is kind of like that. I even remember it as a kid when you'd watch like basketball and they would show like in America the NBA, and they would play the Sunday afternoon games at like 1 o'clock or 12:30. You'd be like, wow, all right. My parents would take us from church, and right afterwards we'd sit there and watch the games. And I kind of feel like in a way it almost takes me back to those days about 20, 25 years ago. And does that kind of feel like that? I feel like the extra pep in your step in wrestling on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, because like people have chosen to spend their Sunday afternoon to come down and watch it. Like there's all sorts of things you could be doing. Yeah, Sunday sports a big thing in Britain as well. We have
Yep.
football on every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So it is. It's exciting.
Oh, it's definitely going to be exciting, and of course, we'll be speaking a lot about that because something tells me that we'll hear from Davey Getsky between now and next week, or somebody will speak about Davey Getsky because the scenario Nathan Gunn owes us an appearance on Sportswire Radio. So we'll look forward to that for sure, and certainly get into Bentley's matches. And again, Bentley will be a part of things coming up at Bolton Town Wrestling November the 4th, where he'll be in action against the Wrecking Crew. So we'll certainly see a lot of Bentley and Davey Getsky, and I'm sure much, much more to develop with GT Ministries as well, because we'll have more GT Ministries coverage coming up next week with Blue Glasses Girl. And Disciple will be back on because Disciple has gotten in touch with us, and certainly many others. But I did want to ask you before we get to closing thoughts, because I know that obviously you've got to run. You're always a very, very busy man. You've got autograph signings, you've got fans to meet, you've got interviews, everything else. But I did want to ask you about one of the companies that I think I speak about the most with, and that is the LWF. And I always have to ask, I mean, anything up with the LWF or anything that we can do here on Sportswire Radio, maybe to get the powers that be to maybe pay attention?
I mean, we have currently nothing in the works. I had my Mutiny debut with Jack Barron. I've had some conversations, but nothing's ever concrete. Nothing. I know a certain Getsky's got the title, so if Getsky
he's got the title, and we'll see if he hangs on to it. Something tells me here he's going to be in action on October the 15th against Bob Costin at October Overload. And Bob Costin certainly I guess, friend to Sportswire Radio, because obviously we were very good friends with Wildfire and Nate Reese. But Bob Costin's been on quite a run since he's lost his hair. And will he be able to end the reign of Davey Getsky? I don't know. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. I will give Getsky this. He has certainly been on an impressive run here over the past year or so. And he is certainly a well-deserving world champion, and we'll see if it's Bentley or somebody else out there. But I do know one thing. I am very curious to see what happens in that match in TWA between him and Jack Johnson, because that's going to be a match that I feel like I'm going to have to figure out, again, how to tell the difference and separate them apart. So we'll certainly see. I think the moral of the story is, Bentley, the referee has the toughest job next week. He has the toughest job coming up. That's for certain here. But I know that you're a busy man. I know that you have a lot going on here. So is there anything that you want to say? Any other closing thoughts that you'd like to give us here before we sign off here with you on Sportswire Radio?
No, really, just the general. I appreciate everyone who tunes in. I appreciate everyone who comes out to support us. I appreciate you taking us on for an interview. I appreciate, just this whole. There's a lot going on in the world, and wrestling is a good outlet and a good, it's an escape from what's going on in the world. There's all sorts. So it's always nice to have this and to see people happy.
Absolutely. I think it was one wrestler, and I won't name this wrestler, that said it. and I asked him, I said, "Oh, well, you didn't win your match." And I asked him, "Oh, I was kind of disappointed." He said, "Nah." He said, "It's not about that. It's not about wins and losses. It's about making the people happy at the end of the day, and people had a good time." So when I thought about it in that sense, maybe it does go to the point that in wrestling, wins and losses don't always matter. It's all about making the people happy. And Bentley definitely does a great job of that. GT Ministries, and I want to one more time shout out GT Ministries because just a phenomenal company and what they do. You think about the first class atmosphere, the way the wrestlers are treated, and the videos, obviously the live streams where you can watch shows on Facebook and YouTube. And I've got one more question for you, and this person's asked it twice, so if I ignored them, I would be really not feeling too good about it, and they've supported us. So Leah Chippendale is the last question before Bentley moves on. And he's got autograph signings, interviews, you name them, left and right. But this last question is, would you ever wrestle Pride? I think they meant Pro, but it's Pride. Would you ever wrestle Pride?
I'll wrestle anyone. I'm not going to say no to wrestling anyone. I think Pride has got to work his way up the card maybe first.
Yeah, I think that's for sure. I definitely think that Pride is, going to have to take some steps. I mean, I've seen him in Nonstop Action Wrestling a little bit there. I've seen him briefly in GT Ministries, but I would have a feeling that we'll see him a little more in this documentary for GT Ministries, and maybe he'll build off that. But like you said, never say never. I mean, listen, anything can happen. I mean, at the end of the day, who knows, right? But I know one thing, that Bentley has had a very, very impressive 2022. He's been in main events. He's had big matches. He's been in the ring with the likes of Franco Varga, Sean Only, Disciple, Jack Johnson, Rarebit, a whole list of people. And certainly this individual also wants to build off that. And I know who this individual is, so let me give him a crack. Had a great triple threat with Bentley once. Good stuff. Yeah, this certainly individual has had some run-ins with different people. And
I'd like a one-on-one. It's been a while since we've actually seen each other, but yeah, I'd like a one-on-one. That could be something in GT.
Well, you know what? That could be at any company. Listen, I mean, I see you everywhere at this point. I mean, you're not just GT Ministries. So you know what? Certainly, maybe the LWF is listening. Maybe Bolton Town Wrestling is listening. Maybe TWA is listening. And you know what? That would be a match I would put a lot of pounds on. You know what? There aren't too many matches. Going back to what we said about GT Ministries and who you should wrestle, obviously, I listed for me Slugger Hampton and the wild card Tommy Dillon. But you know what? Tom Donington, you know what? Hey, maybe there is something in the cards out there. You never know in the professional wrestling world. Where can we find you on social media before we let you go?
Oh, you got to make me remember my social media now.
Bentley_wrestler on Instagram, yeah. Bentley Wrestler on Twitter, and also Facebook, Bentley Wrestler. You like and follow. That was why we did that. Kind of a catch-22, but that was the main thing. But if you are on Sportswire Radio here on sportnarium.com/player, you'll go back to your regularly scheduled programming. As we were here with pro wrestling star, the vigilante of pro wrestling, that is Bentley, who is coming off a huge victory to kick off the show at GT Ministries Chronicles against Jack Barrett. And we also saw things develop with him and an old nemesis and the metal god Alex Borland. We'll also be seeing him next week in TWA with Phil Michaels against him and the Wrecking Crew. That'll be Davey Getsky and also Chris Stone. We're also going to see him in Bolton Town Wrestling. Also going to see him in a number of different places ahead. So I think I screwed up because I think in Bolton Town, November 4th is going to be against the Wrecking Crew. So I want to apologize to anybody that's listening. My typos, my mistake. And also Leah has said now she has just followed you on Instagram. So one more time, Bentley TWA next week. Bolton Town Wrestling, November 4th against the Wrecking Crew. Follow him on all those great social medias. Also, we'll have more talk of Bentley next week for GT Ministries with Bluegrass's Girl. We'll be back Friday, 8 o'clock with BMD of CCW. The Lawman, Kyle Kenny, who you've seen briefly in GT Ministries, is also back Monday, 8 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. We were with pro wrestling star here, the vigilante of pro wrestling, and that is Bentley. Good night, good afternoon, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.